Hello and welcome back to another episode of Faithful Fables. I am your host, Professor Pax Solinus. Want to apologize for a brief aside last week. Of course, more happened than what we thought was going to take place in that Miami game. But after that brief aside, we are now back to our regularly scheduled programming. This week, taking a look at the Week 14 results of the 49ers playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, with Pirate King Tom Brady coming in with his ragtag crew and bunch, hoping to plunder some gold from the Bay Area and only leaving with their tails between their legs and perhaps a bit of scurvy. Tom Brady came back to his hometown, home area, same difference really when it comes down to it, and got to play in front of the Niners fans for only the second time in his career. Interesting note there. But it was all kind of for naught, really. The Niners defense once again proving their absolute domination. Pirate Lord Brady having to make 55 passing attempts to only meager out 285 yards and a fluke touchdown caught by one Buccaneer, Russell Gage. Also forcing a fumble recovery and 2 interceptions. The Niners defense really didn't seem to struggle at all with this team here. They didn't record a sack, but plenty of pressure to force Brady out. But what was more important this time around was Squire Purdy's first career start. A player who wasn't even quite born yet, if I remember correctly, when Tom Brady started playing in the league. Squire Purdy, not a bad stat line once again. Not as many yards as last week against the Dolphins, filling in there. 16 of 21, 185 yards, 2 touchdowns though. And a rushing touchdown, actually. He showed his legs there. Suffice to say, he has definitely earned the nickname that tight end George Kittle has given him. Because this is a wholesome program, we are going to make it nice and censored in a correct way. Let's just say it is a big Rooster Brock, if you catch my drift, substituting rooster in for a different word. I'll let you fill that in there. Other than that, feast galore. Sir Ayuk, 2 catches, 57 yards and a touchdown. A deep one too on the touchdown that he got. Sir McCaffrey, 153 total yards, 1 rushing touchdown for where he exploded just out of the backfield and made it look like a piece of cake. And a receiving touchdown as well. Sir Samuel, 64 yards total, rushing touchdown, excellent sweep. Unfortunately, Sir Debo would go down in the game with an injury. Plus side though, in the past couple hours, that is not very serious and looks like he could return very late in the season. Other than that, there's really not much else to say. The 49ers continue to dominate. They continue to do what they do best. Next up for the 49ers would be nemesis of no bounds, traveling up to the dreary, bleak area known as Seattle to play their dreaded rivals, the Seattle Seahawks, on Thursday night. Much on the line, though, this week, for the 49ers would have the possibility of capturing their first division title since 2019. Will they do it? Can they do it? Well, of course they can do it, but will they do it? Find out next time on Faithful Fables. And now, if you would please continue watching for a brief message from our regularly scheduled programming. Thank you, and good night. Hey everyone, thanks for watching Faithful Fables this week. I'm actually here now following up with that showing here to talk about the playoff picture for the 49ers coming up here. So, as it's known now, Niners went 9-4 now after this win this week. Vikings did lose to the Lions, making them 10-3. First things to keep it real simple: if the Niners beat the Seahawks, who are 7-6 right now, they can clinch the NFC West with the win, because the best then the Seahawks could do is tie their record, and Niners would have both games won in terms of divisional games. So that would make that said and done. And then the Niners can also go no lower than the 3rd seed with the win here, because they hold the tiebreaker over Tampa should they end up having the same record, which I don't see happening for obvious reasons, but you never know. It's nice to have that tiebreaker. The biggest question is going to be is where can they finish up? And yes, mathematically, they're not eliminated from being the 1st seed, but the Eagles clinched the playoff spot already. I don't see them magically faltering to give up that position. So I think the Eagles are going to be probably sure in for that lock for a first round bye. However, the Niners are only a game behind the Vikings now. So the question is, can they catch second place? Of course they can. And should, hypothetically though, they don't end up in front of the Vikings, or the Vikings end up in front of them record-wise, this comes down to a tie-breaking scenario. And I had to look this up on the NFL website because tiebreakers in any league, of course, want to always be nice and complicated once you get down a few steps. So you use the wild card rules according to the NFL website for how they determine divisional winners and where their rankings are going to be. And the first one would be the head-to-head. In this case, it doesn't apply. Niners aren't playing the Vikings this season. Number 2 comes down to best percentage in conference games. So right now the Niners hold an edge on this. 7-2 in the conference right now. Minnesota 6-3. I got the percentages up there as well. 0.778 for the Niners, 6.67 for the Vikings. Both teams still have 3 games to go within the conference. So if this was to hold up, Niners win based on that. Let's say the record gets tied there though somehow. Then you go down to number 3. Best percentage of winning in common games. Now, and it has to be a minimum of 4 games. This is where I get confused because I'm wondering if the NFL counts divisional games in this matter. Because if you look at it, Minnesota and San Francisco both played New Orleans, both won. Both played Miami, both won. Minnesota's beat Washington this year. San Francisco has them coming up after the Seahawks game. So that would be Christmas Eve. Now, I ask about the divisional games because San Francisco did play the Bears. They're only playing them once, obviously. They lost that game. Minnesota's going to be playing them twice. They won the first game. Second game is yet to be played. And then Minnesota played Arizona, beat them. Niners played Arizona one time, have won, and have yet to play their last game with them. So I don't know if that applies then, if they just drop one of those games then and make it count, which I don't think they would though, because then how do you determine which game you take then at that point? Please let me know if you know more about it, because the NFL website just literally lists percentage of common games there. So I don't know if the common games would include divisional games like that, considering that one team has to play the other team twice for their respective divisions there. If that ends up being the case, where they just drop, where they don't count those things, okay, so you've only played 3 common games now. Well, that doesn't meet the minimum now. So that ends up bringing you down to 4th place, or the 4th tiebreaker, strength of victory in all games. I have no clue what that means. I'm guessing it might mean how much you won by. That's all I can see. Point differential, I don't really know there. Forgive me. I mean, I've been a football fan all these years, but I don't think I've ever had to go this deep into a tie-breaking scenario and analyze this before. And at that point, I just don't know. That just goes to show how crazy this season can be. As for what I think the Niners would do, well, if they lock up the division this week, you can go no lower than 3rd. Yeah, shoot for 2nd place if you can get it. At the same time, we saw what happened with Debo there. Looks like he'd be back by week 17 is what they're saying here against the Raiders. By that point, though, depending on what's going on, the Niners might already know if they can catch 2nd place or not, or will have 2nd place in the bag at that point, because that'll be 3 weeks from now. So, and if that's the case there, once you know one way or another, if you can't catch 2nd place, rest your guys at that point, even if it's week 7. By week 17, they probably should know then. So whenever they find out that they're not going to be able to catch 2nd place, or if 2nd place is a lock for them, you rest your guys at that point. I don't really necessarily care about piling up more wins at this rate. They would be playing at home at least 1 game with 3rd, 2 games if they finish 2nd, and of course win obviously at Levi's there for the 2nd seed. But that's kind of the scenario right now. I do think they are clinching this Thursday, but of course it's Seattle in Seattle. Even without Russell Wilson, the Niners just don't play well in Seattle. They had that one epic game to clinch the division back in 2019, the final week of the year, where I probably aged about 10 years during that game. So hopefully this week they wrap it up there and I don't have to worry now for the rest of the season outside of them just trying to shoot for that 2nd place. But thanks for watching this little analyzation here. I'll be keeping track of what's going on here over the next couple of weeks or with the playoff scenario here and who their playoff opponent might be. It could be anywhere from Seattle, Washington, the Giants, and I think maybe even Detroit, if Detroit somehow pulls out these wins here. So they got 4 possible opponents right there, just waiting to see who it's all going to be. That probably won't clear up until probably week 17. So that's where we're at right now, guys. Thanks so much for also watching this little analysis afterwards there, and I look forward to doing another video for you next week. Take care.